Hello, everybody. Welcome to Step Into the Portal. Happy Friday. Happy pre-release day for League of Villains Set 4 from My Hero Academia. I am here with Sean O'Brien, owner of Rochester CCG. Hello, Sean.
Hello there. How are you today?
I am doing fabulous. This is an exciting day. In fact, not only is it My Hero release day, pre-release day, but it's also Marvel Champions Rogue and Gambit came out. And as many people know from this channel, this is kind of my other favorite game. I've tried to push this one to a lot of My Hero players because this is the cooperative version of My Hero, which sounds weird because when you're in a competitive environment, cooperative sounds very strange. But this plays a lot like that, where you build decks with heroes that are all unique, trying to, combo their abilities and everything to defeat a common enemy. So these are available in store today. At the portal and at your local retailers as well. So you can see that. I actually streamed playing them this morning at 8 a.m. I played those two decks for people. So it's a busy day of streaming for me.
Well, double release dates are exciting for any store because you've got, folks who are coming in who are excited for, Marvel, and then you got folks coming in who are excited for My Hero Academia. And it turns out that's when you get them to buy each other's product. And now they have more money that they're putting into the
Yeah, no, absolutely. So should be good. So what are you looking forward to at your local scene when you're doing your pre-release and all that?
So we're running two pre-releases. We've never ran two before. It's usually just been the one. So we're pretty excited about that. We play tonight at 6:30. We're going to be playing over at Millennium Games in Henrietta. And then we play tomorrow at Millennium Games at high noon. I'm just looking forward to getting to play these cards. During the HLC, I was vending, so I didn't get to open the cards and play them yet. So for me, it's pretty exciting to get the new cards out and try them out. And, we're kind of in a growing pattern here in Rochester, which is good. So we got new players who haven't done sealed before. So it'll be a fun experience for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, we should mention, so you're Rochester CCG, and being in Connecticut, not far from Rochester, New York, I guess, relatively speaking, for people who might be watching. Yeah, it's in New York. I think of it as halfway between Albany and Buffalo.
More or less, yeah.
Is that roughly the idea, if that helps people out? Although I'm not sure that people know where Albany is, other than they learned that it's the capital with the star on the map, right? It feels like it's the most, well, for cities, it feels like it's the most out there in New York.
It's upstate, so we're not close to New York City downstate. When people say, "Oh, I'm from New York," they're like, "Oh, like from Manhattan." I'm like, no. We're surrounded outside of Rochester. It's all cows and corn.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. Well, my dad traveled for sales, so he was always out that direction, Buffalo, all around, Potsdam, all those areas. So those are spots that I know well. And we're not too far from each other. I know when I talked to Kevin, who plays with your group, that I think we figured it out from Manchester, Connecticut to, where you guys are in Rochester. It's like pretty much 5 hours door to door. So we definitely have to find a way to, but maybe with these store provisionals this season, we can find a way to travel to each other's,
Yeah, and hopefully maybe there's going to be a regional up this direction here. So
yeah, that would be huge too.
That would be huge.
So nice. All right. Well, the first place I kind of wanted to start was like, why should people jump in and set 4? We've had a lot of growth. You were talking about growth, and so what's kind of your buzz or your pitch to people if they're thinking like now is the time to jump in? Or obviously some people just are jumping in now, right? That's just how it is. But what do you think's exciting in the My Hero universe right now?
Well, let me tell you what's exciting. First of all, My Hero for a lot of folks makes a really good second CCG. Singles prices aren't out of this world. Set 2 and set 3 are both very reasonable. For set 1, if you pick up unlimited singles, once again, very reasonable rather. I think set 4, the prices are going to rebound a little bit because of the distribution this time around, plus less packs overall are going to get opened because of the lack of chrome rares.
Right.
So I think set 4 is going to be more valuable, which is great if you're jumping in now, and getting the backlog of cards of set 1, 2, and 3 isn't going to break the bank. One of the things that's nice about this game is a lot of the most powerful cards are printed at common and uncommon. So you can get a serviceable
game. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can end up with a serviceable deck that, you could go 3-0 at a locals with for 40, $50.
Yeah, I really am impressed, and I tell people, and they always look at me side-eyed, like, because they come from maybe Magic or something where they're used to the cards just individually being expensive, or the commons being chaff that you just, get rid of. Like, lands are good, and then from there. But in this game, I look at my decks and I'm like, boy, 50% of my deck plus, I mean, more than that is commons and uncommons, right?
Yeah, so that keeps the pricing very reasonable. You don't have to go out and buy secret rares on day one. I mean, right now I know I've got the secret rares priced at like $40 a piece. You don't need them on day one. They don't make the secret rares meta defining, warping. You have to play this card. And like you said, commons and uncommons are half of your deck.
Yeah.
And
I mean, often those secret rares are just kind of some fun, I find. I was playing, actually, is it you that likes Kamui Woods a lot?
yeah.
And I was playing Kamui Woods with is it Aggressive Clash?
Yeah, the one check.
Yeah, the one check from set 3. And it was pretty fun. Like, when it works, it worked. But of course, 2 of my 3 games, I check a 1 at a bad time,
You live by the ones and you die by the ones.
But they're fun cards, to be able to use. I was thinking too, just the fact of the villains, like somebody was talking about it recently. It might not even have been related to this game. It might have just been somebody talking about My Hero, but they were saying how, like, the League of Villains, the villains they've created are really interesting villains in the show.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the strengths of My Hero. Back in the day, I used to watch Dragon Ball. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how old I am. I'm a boomer. And most of my favorite parts of the show is when they had like the World Martial Arts Tournament, because you'd have characters that would show up maybe once or twice, but they'd have all these really weird techniques. And My Hero is basically the show, right? It's
right
because it's you got Deku, who's actually probably the most boring hero of all. It's like, okay, I am kind of like Superman, but then you've got characters like Ochako, who can make things float, and you've got looking at the villains, you've got Shigaraki, who makes things decay. You've got Dabi, who has control of fire. You've got Toga, who steals people's blood to copy their abilities, which even compared to a lot of American superheroes is way more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're straight villains. They're not necessarily talking it through their whole plan. Their plan is just to enact it. Which is cool. So I think that's a place, is that we're seeing a lot of these, and some of them become the second or third iteration, but I actually applaud the game for doing that, where they say, let's make a character again. Let's just see what we can do. Change the symbol, change some abilities and whatnot,
Yeah, and one of the things that's happened throughout the years with this game, I mean, this is going back to 2006. Once again, I'm a boomer. They've had, they had like 10 versions of Ryu from Street Fighter. Some are better, some are worse, but they've, covered all 12 symbols, had many different abilities. And, this is the 6th All Might that's coming out in this set in the Clash decks.
Right.
I think we're on to the 3rd Shigaraki. Only the 2nd Toga, which I know people who are pretty upset that they've only made 2 Togas. Get over it. But there's also one thing I really like about this set is there are villains that are less known that are coming into the spotlight here. Because when they previewed who is it here? Magne. Like, I didn't even remember that character at all.
Which character is it?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Magne. They
gotcha.
Yeah. They were in like only just a couple of episodes, but being able to find, they made him a plus ultra promo, so they didn't need a ton of art.
Gotcha. That's why I wasn't connecting with it yet.
So yeah, I just think it's cool that the villains are getting the spotlight. People have been waiting for Twice since day one. Like, I want Twice, I want Twice, I want Twice. Well, now you have them.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Evan, thanks for joining us. Evan was one of our local players there. So, anybody watching, if you have questions, we're obviously having a chat. We have a couple topics to go through, but if you have any questions or anything you want to do, let us know and we can answer any of those. I see people are starting to filter in a little bit more here too. So, feel free to ask us a question, even if you have to run. if you're in the middle of your day or whatever, we'll answer them and you can watch this back later. But we're happy to answer any of those, or very simply, you could just let us know in chat, like, which of the villains are you excited to play? You know, which one are you thinking about, and whatnot. So yeah, I think what you said is really important, though, is that it's really easy to pick up the cards and go backwards. And it actually feels like this set, and I'm probably wrong if I went back, but it feels like this set has more of what we saw in set 1, where it's like there is a villain and then there's a couple foundations and a couple attacks with them, you know, a common and uncommon and a rare kind of thing. And it feels like set 3 didn't have as much of that.
Well, you know, I think set 3 was really the first time probably in the history of the game, that we got a genuine expansion set. Right.
Sure,
so
right.
Not a core set built on characters that, you know, were already printed, you know, in set 2, you know, and it felt different, and I didn't hate it. I felt like, you know, it was nice for them to go back and say, okay, we're going to give a couple cards to Midnight because she'd been a promo. She didn't get, you know, a ton of support, you know, eating somnambulism and Spirited Referee and Easily Excited. So I actually thought that was super cool. The downside is, and, you know, we're going to talk about Sealed here in a little bit. The downside to that type of set is the cards don't mesh together.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, you may have somebody says, oh, your Fury attacks do this. Well, if they only put 4 Fury attacks in the set, that's going to make your Sealed experience, you know, not so great. So that's why, you know, when we played Sealed for set 3, you know, he was a stats monster you wanted to play. It was, I think, it was either Animals guy or Tail guy. I'm terrible with names.
Oh, yeah. Coda and Ojiro.
Yeah, because they just said stats.
Yeah.
So
Ojiro did really well in our pre-releases.
So yeah, they were the chosen characters for that set because they could put stats on anything. And I think because this is full support for everybody, it's gonna, you know, make for some more dynamic deck building and being able to do things that normally you can't do because of the no symbol restriction.
I was thinking about what you were saying with second editions of characters or whatever, second version. There's one Jiro, and she's ridiculously good.
Yeah, they don't need to print another Jiro until that first one rotates. She's going to be relevant forever.
So, I mean, I guess that must be part of their thought process, I guess. You know?
Either that or, you know, the part of the series that they're pulling the R from, maybe she's not in that many episodes, or she doesn't have any cool moves to show off. I don't really know. I mean, we did set 1 with all heroes. Set 2 had some more villains in it. Set 3 was kind of the hodgepodge of expansion. And set 4 is all villains except for All Might. So there really hasn't been a space for her.
Yeah. What was that last thing? Sorry, I missed it.
I feel like there hasn't really been a space for her in the sets recently. So maybe set 5 will get another Jiro.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she's not in a DLC or anything, but again, that version's so good. What is the second one going to do? I mean, they'd have to change her symbols, I guess, and find a different thing to do. But yeah, it would just be interesting. But it's just funny that so many of them have a lot of versions, but she's got one.
And she's really popular. She's very good, and she's a popular character on the show. So hopefully we'll see some more Jiro soon.
Nice. Remind me when we jump ahead a little bit about the actual set. I want to talk about the checks in this set. I think that's a big part. But I do want to talk about pre-release because you mentioned that. So what does your pre-release look like that you do? And we'll kind of compare and see. And then for people who are watching who haven't done that before, they can get some information maybe.
So we recently switched to the Jasco official pre-release structure where you get 6 packs. It's loosey-goosey on symbol restrictions. Play whatever you want. Build your 40-card deck. Have a great time. We used to have what we called soft symbol restrictions, where you had to just match one symbol with your character.
Yeah.
We also did 8 packs because if you open 6 packs, you may not have a serviceable deck. You may not have anything playable. So we gotten away from that. The other thing we used to do that was kind of cool was you'd get your 6 packs to start, and then every round you'd get an additional pack to change and modify.
Okay.
The downside to that format is it's just expensive. Folks don't want to come pay, you got to pay like $40 for entry.
Yeah.
We're going with the Jasco official structure, the next 2 events. 6 packs, play whatever you want. We're not, you can play any character you get, or you can choose a character from the character pile.
Oh, okay, you're doing that.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, the difference for us is we're going to do shuffle the characters, deal one to everybody,
Uh,
and then what you open, you can play.
that's just, it'll be less awkward with this set, but like with set 3, that would have been so bad. Like, what if you'd have got, Stain, and there are like 3 weapons in the entire set?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I guess there's that element. So that's what we're going with. I think that's what they did at the HLC. So we were trying to figure out how to do that. But we did the choose. I guess we were trying to avoid that there would only be certain characters that people would pick. But I guess that's kind of part of the competitive element,
Yeah, I mean, for us, sealed is not competitive. It's very casual for us.
Right.
For a lot of folks in our group, they're only reading the cards for the very first time.
For sure. Yeah, I would think pretty much everybody for ours.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we got away from draft, is unless you were Kevin Broberg, when you drafted, you didn't know what you needed because you are only reading the cards for the first or second time. Then you'd have to pass them, and somebody would come up with a weird concept, get 8 copies of a common, and just run over the tournament. So for that reason, I don't think draft in this game is pretty good. That's why I'm glad that sealed is really getting some support finally.
Yeah, I like the sealed. It's a little lower barrier to entry, like you said, which is nice, and it keeps it fun, and people laugh about. You get to tell the story of, in the pre-release, I got to play this card with this character, right? That the restrictions are illegal, but when I put those 2 together, it was this wacky combo. But there was only one in my deck, so it only happened one time, right?
Yeah.
So you get those kind of fun elements. But it is funny. I do notice that. Like I remember back to set 3 and whatnot, like teaching players as they come in, and then the new set releases. So I grab the decks like Eraserhead and Endeavor. And all of a sudden you're there like, oh no. And you're trying to read all these cards. You have no idea what they do.
Yeah.
So I start just looking at numbers for foundations. I'll just lay these down and figure out what I can do and just play some attacks. Like a 5 check sounds good. And then a 5 diff and a 4 diff, and I'll just run with it.
Well, with set 3 playing Ojiro and Animal Guy, it was just stats. So so I ended up playing the Animal Guy, and it's like, oh well, I don't have to know what my cards do. I just put stats on everything.
Right.
And I had the good fortune of opening a funny punch, and had enough punches that I got that I could combo that twice over the course of the night. So
that is funny when you get a certain card. I remember with Ojiro, I was just killing everybody. It's the Sero, maybe uncommon. It's like a 2 mid for 7 damage or something.
Yeah, but it's getting +3/+3.
But it's getting whatever, and people just couldn't, or they just didn't have a mid block. Like for whatever reason, their deck didn't have mid block. So it's like, well, I'm gonna partial, and you're gonna, and I'd add +2 to it. Like, I'm gonna partial here for 5 damage. It's like, oh, you're almost dead. So yeah, it does have that element. Nice. So you said you're doing it twice. You're doing it tonight, and when was the other time that you were doing yours?
Tomorrow at noon.
Okay. And then I think there's a promo, right? That's in the kit. It's
Mr.
character cards. Yeah, Mr. Compress is in there, so that's the thing that everybody's getting. So ours are, and it's funny because our group is smaller than yours, but that's actually the reason I think we're doing multiple. So we're really doing Saturday, Sunday. So we're doing 2 kind of the same, really, because people were split as to which day they could come on the weekend, and Friday wasn't going to work with us with Magic and with college kids working and whatnot. I don't know if they were going to make it on a Friday night. So we're doing that, but we're also doing one on Tuesday on our regular league night or whatever, our regular play night. We decided to just swap in and do a pre-release because there were people that neither Saturday or Sunday was going to work, and everybody just kind of agreed, well, I'll come to one of those and then I'll do the pre-release on the Tuesday night, and most people are happy to get cards. So doing sealed right off the bat, at least people are getting packs and they don't have cards, so they're pretty down with it,
Yeah, people are excited to see these cards. For a lot of folks, because they didn't go to the HLC, this will be the first time for most Universes players to actually hold these cards in their hand and see them in the flesh and read them, which is, for me, very different from looking at them on a computer screen.
It's 100% for me. I don't know how people do that. Like you were talking about, Kevin, and just knowing this card will be good, this card will, I get it. Like I could talk it through with somebody and that would help me. You know what I mean? But reading a bunch of cards and saying this one's good, this one's bad, this one's terrible, this one's amazing, this one combos with this set 1 and this set 2 card. I can't get there. I got to shuffle up a deck and then, fishbowl it a little bit and then, go and play it against somebody else and go, okay, this is what's working. You know what I mean? This, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot this card,
Yeah.
Like I need to put this card in, of course. This is a key component of this deck. Or wow, I look at this deck and I love all the cards, but they're all 3s for blocking. So this isn't going to work.
Sealed is a nice low risk place to learn about the new cards. Because you're not going to get blown up by Kevin Broberg's Midnight round 1 when you tried something new in Sealed. It can't happen. Otherwise, Kevin's cheating, right?
I guess we should note to people, I did interview Kevin on here, but he was the HLC champion this year, the world champion. So that's who we're referencing there. Cool. So let's talk about set 4 excitement. What are you excited for? We kind of have alluded to it, but are there villains you're excited for? Are there some ultra rares? Is there not only chase cards in this set because we don't have the chrome rares?
So for me, I'm torn because I've been playing, as we mentioned earlier, Kamui Woods for like 8 months, building 30 card stage and just being hard to kill. So for me, All for One came to mind at first. I'm thinking Chaos to get, the access to the really good Chaos attacks. So I think that's going to be like my first serious deck, is trying to figure out how to take advantage of his ability to, build foundations and move them around the board and whatnot. My silly deck, because Kevin doesn't think he's very good, is going to be Twice, just because he's Twice and I think he's funny and I like him on the show. And stacking characters is always fun. They put a 2-diff on Twice, so you can reasonably play him into your stage, since we don't have Gauge in this format. So those are the 2 characters I'm most excited to tinker around with.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed with Twice talking about, but like there are cards that go with Twice that help you to get those built. Like they pull a character. So for people who don't know, Twice generally has a defensive ability where they can discard a copy of themselves from your stage. So you can actually get like multiple copies of the character out, and you can discard for defensive. In fact, it lowers an attack to 2 damage when it hits you. It's not even mid enhanced step. Yeah,
so it's not like, you put it down to 2. Well, I'm just gonna, you're so obvious it back to printed. This is, after blocks are done. So
yeah, but they did a good job of realizing, like, so then, like you said, you can play the character as a card, and then there are cards that allow you to build it from your stage. Build it from your card pool down to your stage. So it felt like it's at least there. And I guess the question is, the format can be quick. Can you get all that done and be effective, right?
Yeah. And, he has a chance, I think, because, traditionally in this game, you would expect a character with those types of abilities to be like a 7-hand size, 19 health glass cannon. But he's a 627, so he's got, some resiliency.
Yeah. And an offensive and a defensive ability. I don't remember the offensive ability. Is it just your next attack gets +2/+2?
No. So if this is the second copy of this attack you've played this turn, it gets +2 speed and +2 damage.
Okay, that's what it is. So
and so
he wants to play copies of cards.
Yeah, and he's got a foundation that says response. I think it's a response after you play an attack, you can bounce it back to your hand and play it again to get the +2/+2. I'm not sure how often that'll see play, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's the right one, or gosh, if I was a 5-hander, that feels like a stronger ability, not even in him, you know what I mean? But a character that needs card draw or needs an attack. Oh, but you have to pull it back before it's resolved, don't you?
Right. You play and then it gets bounced right here. And I can't find the card right now to save my life.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the names of some of the cards, but I just haven't.
Finger guns. Response commit after you play an attack, add it to your hand. So that's going to happen before the attack resolves.
Right. So it won't. Yeah, it'll just do whatever it is. So. All right. Well, I think Echo is one of those interesting things too. That's something, because it used to be multiplicity, multiple.
Yeah. Yeah. So Echo is a little better and a little worse than multiple, because Nice thing about Echo is, back in the day, if you had like an attack with multiple 3, you'd put 3 cards into your card pool, and that was pretty much the end of your turn. Whereas with Echo, it only adds +1 progressive difficulty. It's just like having a normal attack.
Right.
With the downside being is, after it flips, it can't go to your momentum.
Correct. Right. Yeah, so you discard a momentum and then you can repeat the attack, right? You play a second copy of that. It counts as another copy.
Yep, you just play it again.
Yeah, and then you flip it face down afterwards so that, sorry, just repeating what you said, but a little slower so I can process it all. That's all that is. So I think that'll be an interesting mechanism to see. It's funny that it really isn't in twice, which is where you would predict it.
Well, you do have one Echo card. His ultra rare Double Trouble has Echo.
Okay, got it.
So what's kind of cool is, he gets +2/+2 on the second copy. So you play Double Trouble on a 4. It's a 2 mid-5 stun 1. It has a filter ability to discard card to draw a card. And it also has a twice enhance that you can discard a character card that's not your starting character, of course, from your stage to pay that cost of the Echo. So if you have 2 or 3 twices and you're trying to be offensive this turn, you can just turn that one of those characters into
an Echo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So it kind of makes it so those are if you draw them later or your kill turn or whatever, they become momentum to fuel those cards.
Yeah, and when you play that second Double Trouble, the Echo one, that satisfies his requirement for the +2/+2. Because now you've played a second copy of Double Trouble. So now it's a 4 mid for 7, stun 1 with a filter on it.
Right. Yeah, and the filter would be good for just drawing other cards. Wait, so hold on. I'm just starting to process Echo now. So if I play a card, I know this one's different, or no, this one was Echo, and then I Echo it, but then I want to play a third card, I only have 1 progressive. Is that what happens?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So I might be a little slow on that, but it just hit me. I realized, okay, so, right. So I see the pluses and minuses. It doesn't go to your momentum. You were saying all this and it's just processing for me now. But so that's neat. So not only are you playing the card, but it won't add to progressive. So that'll make it playing whatever you want, whether you're going to, finish and add your foundations or whatever, a little different on that front. Nice. I feel like Muscular is the character that I'm looking at. He just feels, I love Nomu, but Nomu needs speed. And, his defense is cool, but I feel like so many times I play Nomu and people are like, well, I'll hit you for 7 and you can reduce it to 6 if you know what I mean? And it's not that effective. Obviously, it's amazing if you play somebody like a Jiro who's just trying to load up a card and you're like, sure, I'll take 6. No worries, but he builds foundations off of getting attacked.
Yeah, so that's one of the bonuses. With Nomu, it is mathing around 6, right? Whenever we used to have a player who played Nomu every week in our store. I played against Jacob Masur, who is our relative, or our resident Nomu master. It's like, okay, well, how do you take care of Nomu? You commit his stage, which isn't hard. He's a 5-hand size. And if he has 1 million foundations up, you send everything in for 7 or 6.
Yeah.
And then once you exhaust Nomu's foundations, well, then you can just hit him with something big.
Yeah, so Muscular is adding these muscle counters every time an attack deals damage. So you get hit, you hit them, you get a muscle counter, and then you can add damage to every attack based on the number of those counters. So obviously it's a little bit of a slow burn at first, but turning around to what Nomu's doing at 4, 5, 6 might really be possible on your second turn.
Yeah, so for me, when I look at Muscular, he looks like a differently shaped Cementos, honestly. Okay. Cementos, flips his foundations, and then for every 2 flip foundations, he gets +1 damage. And then for every 3 flip foundations, Cementos gets +1 hand size, which helps building, foundations. So I think Muscular is just like a different version of that. What's kind of cool is any attack dealing damage adds to, the muscle counters. Right. And for once, the designers weren't cowards and they didn't put like maximum 4 on the enhance, right?
Right. Well, I agree, but I definitely know there's things, if you don't put a max on something, it definitely can get abused. But I guess in this case, if you're able to string that many attacks, or somebody's able to hit you that many times and you're willing to take damage from them, you get the bonus, right? So it's a little different thing to not put a maximum on, I suppose.
Yeah, well, with him, they did have the good sense to make it non-throw, right?
Yeah.
So, it's not going to be, well, this is my 22 damage throw. Good luck, right? They have to actually, deal damage. And because he's a 5-hand size, he doesn't have an inherent draw ability on him. So it's not going to be, well, I'm muscular and I drew 12 cards this turn. You're going to have to jump through some hoops. You can do it with like Tetsu, thrashing. You can use Relentless Barrage to add to your hand size. But still, you're locked into those 5 cards you draw. Whereas, like, I mentioned Cementos earlier, where, well, I have 9 face down foundation, so I'm not an 8-hand size. I get to see way more attacks. Also, because I have 9 face down foundations, all my attacks get +4 damage.
Right. Yeah, the card draw is the tricky part, right? And I think he has fire as a symbol.
Yes, he's got
which has a lot of card draw in it.
Yeah, he's not without options, but you have to build your. You got to figure out some card advantage for him, I think, to be really, really good.
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember. I played an Endeavor 2 deck for a while that I think is actually still together, but I think I've pulled cards out of it. I don't have a massive collection. I don't tend to have, 4 copies of everything. So I have to pull, or actually it's funny. It's like not necessarily the commons, but sometimes the uncommons that over time I end up getting maybe like 9 of them. So like 4 are in one deck, 3 are in another deck, 2 are somewhere. I've given them to somebody because I needed a card. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have any more copies of this, like a specialist of sound or something. So then you're digging somewhere, and our box at the store, it's like, if you think of those just absolutely clutch calling for backup specials, they're not in the box.
They are hard to find.
But I remember playing him on fire and finding a lot of card draw. Prominence Burn, Muscular.
That seems pretty good.
Fury, he could play the Fury package, right?
There's nothing that prevents him from doing that.
Yeah, I don't think so. So could be a way to go.
Yeah, I think Muscular is going to be pretty good. I think somebody's going to figure out, efficient draw engine for him, and then, he's going to go around and beat people up.
I mean, those stun grenades coming in at +5, so it's like a 4 mid for 9. It's like, well, you're going to have to block it, and it's drawing me another card and stunning you out.
Yeah, Stun Grenade is really good. That's one of the best cards in set 3 was Stun Grenade.
Yeah. So the other character I've been looking at a lot is Spinner, who I'm not sure is all that great. But the 2 options I want to go with is I never really got a chance to play all the combo cards from Eraser Head 2. I like Eraser Head 1 so much. It was hard to switch over to Eraserhead 2. Like, I just kept thinking like Eraserhead 1, So I wanted to try to do kind of those small difficulty, 3 and 4 difficulty weapons where Spinner can keep adding stats the further out you go. So something like that, because Spinner has an enhance that's add +1 speed or +1 damage to all of your weapons for the rest of the turn.
Yeah. That's kind of like, you can pair that up with like Prone to Dry Eyes, which is, pitch a card +1 damage for the rest of the turn. So if you got Prone to Dry Eyes plus Spinner, you could have +X on all of your weapons for the rest of the turn. Once again, you got to figure out how to draw lots of cards.
Stats, yeah. Is he a 6 or a 5?
He's a 6-hander.
Okay, so we got something going on there.
Yeah, he does get +1 hand size compared to Muscular.
He also has some weird, like he could build a foundation. So there's a foundation in there, and I was talking to somebody about using it for Jiro, and I had no idea, but the difficulty on the foundation is 4. So it has Gran Torino on it, and it's a first form. Your first attack is -3 difficulty, +3 speed. So I was thinking with Jiro, if you built 3 foundations and then played an attack that gets +4 damage and +3 speed, that would be pretty good. But they pointed out, yeah, but how are you getting that 4 difficulty in if you're playing 2 checks in your deck? And I had no idea it's a 4. But Spinner lets you build a foundation from your hand.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Sorry for the pointiness. I didn't mean to be pointy.
well, you know, you brought up 1s and 2 checks a couple of times on this.
Oh yeah, we should mention that.
And you know, you folks shouldn't be afraid of them. Like, you play around them smart, but put 1s and 2s in your deck. Turns out attacks with 2s, especially, and 1s, are more powerful because you got to take that risk.
Right.
You know, the first time I won a champion card back in 2012, long time ago, my deck ran 2 checks. I don't think I've ever won a major tournament without 2s or 1s in my deck. And sometimes, you know, especially if you're behind, you just got to play like they're not there. You know, and when you're going first, just play smart, you know, play around checking a 2. You know, maybe you'll go, you know, 2 diff, 1 diff, 0 diff, 0 diff, 1 diff.
Yeah.
You know, just to make sure you're guaranteed, you know, 2 or 3 foundations on that first turn.
Yeah, turn 1 seems to be the major issue. The others are, I mean, I guess if you're trying to do some kind of big setup, like I'm going to hit them with this 6 difficulty, or 6, I feel like putting a 6 diff in a deck that has 1 checks, it's probably a little bit on you at that point.
Well, remember, you always have the option to fail and end your turn. You're not married to committing 5 foundations and being in a bad way. And this set has, you know, has at least 1, I would say even 2 spicy 1 checks. Like, Warpgate Portal is really good. You know, you can search your deck for any attack that's not Warpgate Portal and play it. I mean, there's not much in the format right now that says go grab anything you want.
Yeah. No, that card is real interesting. Like,
I mean, it's got good stats, 5 mid for 5, +0 mid block. And yeah, you gotta roll a 1, but that turns into whatever follow-up move you want next.
Yeah. No, that's real good, especially if you have a few kills of a different type in a kit, right? Like, you've got a 1.3 million volts. I don't know what the symbols are, so it might not match up with those. What are the symbols on it?
It's got air, all, and evil.
So 1.3 million would be on air.
Yeah.
And Home Run Comet is not, because that was in set 1, right?
Yeah, I think you could
and
get.
Ochako was air in set 1. So yeah, so there you go, right? You got those 2 in your deck, and you can pick your poison at that point, right? Which one are you going with? So yeah, I don't know. The 1 checks scare me a lot more than the 2 checks. I agree to the 2s.
It's only 1 less.
This is true. This is true.
Don't be a coward.
So
honestly, these are, you know, Warpgate Portal and even Rushing Stab, I think, are the best ones maybe that they've printed so far in this era.
What is the other one that you just said?
Rushing Stab. It's Toga's rare. 4 mid for 5, stun 3. If it's add to your momentum, goes face up like everything does in this format, it seems like. And it has momentum flip, draw 2.
Yeah.
If it's in your momentum, flip it to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, that is no joke.
And the other enhance, you know, doesn't sound as flashy as drawing 2 cards, but if your rivals lost health, sealing 2 of their foundations could be the difference between winning or losing, both on offense and on defense. If your rivals paid a cost with their health, and you could torpedo their 2 best foundations and live, that's worth a 1 check.
Yeah. No, you could definitely, now you say, hey, all those foundations are, you know, cost to help you block. Can you block, right? Instead of cancel the attack or whatever it might be. So yeah, we'll see. I'll have to brave it for sure at some point here. Like I said, I played that Kamui Woods. That was actually one that our store owner had put together, and I showed up on a week, you know, coming from one event to another. I had no cards, so he gave me that deck, and it was super fun to have that aggressive clash and run with it. So it's finding those 1s and really make, you know, the 1 check attacks and making them work with the deck, right? So that not focusing on the when it fails, but when it works, what happens.
Just run lots of 0 diffs. There are so many good 0 diff foundations. You'll be fine.
Well, that's a big part, right? Going back to where we started, like, why jump in on set 4? Because you've got a lot of stuff to work with. You're not limited to, you know, this stuff doesn't work anymore. It was that way for so long. Like, when you went to 0 diffs, there were some symbols where it was like, there's 1, there's 2, But now you tend to have options and you're like, wow, I might actually do 2 of these and 2 of these just so I have some variety, right? I mean, Chaos is like swimming in zero diffs, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you have before set 4 comes out, because the filter on UVS Ultra isn't set up for League of Villains yet. You had a choice of 19 zero diffs across 12 symbols.
Yeah.
And most of them are good. You know, they're reasonable cards, like Best Internship with Best Genus, flipping one of your rivals' foundations unexpected.
Right off the bat, too.
Floating Around My Babies, that puts people in the ground on a zero diff.
Oh, I should have had it. That's the only promo card I bought. I bought the Nationals Floating Around My Babies. Have you seen it?
Yes,
the full art one. I love Mei Hatsume. I tried to make her work at locals. I got smoked.
I mean, It Can't Be Fixed is always going to be good. That'd be a good 1/5. And Requesting Assistance is just broken. I can't believe it's not banned.
Yeah, that one's intense. Yeah, it needs another cost like Destroy? Anything? I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Release, Keen Observation isn't even terrible. Tight-Lipped, that just...
It's a 1 mid.
Yeah.
Block. Like, it just for that, you put in your deck, right? The damage at the end, when you need to add damage or you have to add it to a throw or something they're going to partially block and you know it, right? To bump it to the odds, +1. And you can flip anything. But then it's a 1 mid block, so it's just you're out at any time, right?
Yeah, when you draw, it's like, well, I've already got one, and I don't want to go into deadlock. I'll just keep this to block with.
Yeah, and then if they happen to just throw a mid down, you're like, great. And if they throw something else, you're like, well, I'll partial this.
And everybody's playing mids right now.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, there's a lot of mids that are coming. Well, they're putting all the power right in those mids.
Yeah, like Back Alley Haymaker's a mid. You know, your pile of a lot of your Hiroshima toolbox cards are mids.
Yeah, we didn't even mention basic training, but Shansha here says basic training, which is just respond, give it +1 damage, which that's just super good, right? Hey, here you go. Here's another one. And if they ever dare to go to deadlock, I think it gives a speed to every attack after that.
Yeah.
on a 0.
The game does not lack for super playable zeros.
No, it's true. There's not a lot that are very situational. So there's a new one in All Might, which is just when you block, ready it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't lack for good zero diffs.
So maybe that's the secret. Just make a deck of 0 diffs.
Well, they printed 5 more zeros in this set. Master's Pride, You're Finished, Ignite, Enamored, and Saving Bakugo.
Okay.
So you're not in a bad place. And Chaos got 2 zero diffs in Ignite and Master's Pride. I think Chaos is going to be really good.
Oh, is Chaos not really good already?
I mean, it's already really good. It's going to be really, really good.
Yeah. That's the other point too. Shansa says that on basic training, the deadlock is playable while committed.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who frequently goes into deadlock like me, like you got to have a plan for that card. You know, you got to apathetic it. You got to find some way to destroy it, seal it, something.
Right. Yeah, it's tense. So speaking of going to set 4 and Chaos being really good, like we were talking about, do we think the meta will change from set 4, which is like the most open question of all time, right? Because we could sit here and say it absolutely will, or we could say it'll never change, and we don't know. But Chaos, like it still feels like Tokiyami is strong.
Oh, Chaos is going to do just fine. Earth did just fine in this set. You know, I think the meta is, for the time being, going to continue to be dominated by set 1 characters. I mean, it was just a different design era. I think, you know, there are good characters in set 4, but they're not as time tested and true. Like everyone knows that, you know, like the baseline of how bad most of your set 1 characters can do. Like Ochako only gets better the more stuff they print. She was an early, scary deck. I mean, we haven't seen too much from her lately, but turns out they keep printing charges, they keep printing highs.
Right.
Jiro's going to continue to be good. They keep printing charges, they keep printing weapons.
Yeah.
Midnight's going to still tear things up because they put 4 keywords on everything.
Yeah.
So the set 1 characters, I think, are going to continue to dominate. I think some of these set 4 characters are going to sneak in. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the meta. It's more the same. Deadlock's a little scarier. It gets a little scary to go into Deadlock with every set. But they also gave the All for One deck a whole bunch of tools to protect themselves when they go into Deadlock.
Yeah. I'm intrigued, and you played the game a lot longer than I have. I did actually play it before My Hero, so I'm not new to My Hero. That's kind of when I bought in, but I had played, and we streamed on this channel before My Hero came out, Universus itself, with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Cowboy Bebop. That might put me in just the previous era, not 2012.
Boomer like me.
Yeah. But it feels fast. Like, it feels like if you fail to kill somebody on your turn, you're just dead on the backswing sometimes. And maybe that's just our local metas that way.
Well, an important skill to develop in Universes, and this has been true since 2006 when the game came out, is knowing when to stop. Like knowing, doing combat math, knowing if you got a chance to get through. Mm-hmm. And if the math is not there, pulling back and, taking a defensive stand. So I think, I've always been a defensive player. Turns out when time gets called, I'm still playing every Friday night. That's just the way I am. But, sometimes, especially depending on the deck you're playing, you got to know when to stop and fight another day. There are some decks that can't play defense at all. So, yeah, you're going to die in the backswing. But if the math's not there, I don't know, the right formula for this. It's not a formula. It's just something I feel. Is just knowing when to stop and say, you know what, this isn't happening. Let's try to get some ready foundations and get out of here.
Yeah. We're having a lot of turn 2 kills, which is rough. You don't even get a turn as the second player,
I told you about my friend Breaker. Breaker's really good.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to do some of that. So it's probably just more of those. But, we're finding even like Shigaraki 1 I got turn 2 killed by Shigaraki 1, with the +5 damage and then just 5 attacks in their hand and they check them all. And it's like, well, that was fun. But I mean, you scoop and you play again, especially when it's just a Tuesday night. It's not a tragedy, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're finding that's happening frequently, and, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, shuffle your rival's deck. Make sure it is, fully randomized, because I know a lot of times people draw 7 foundation hands and then they draw 5 attack hands. And naturally over the course of playing in a tournament, those things do start to clump up together. So make sure you're randomizing your deck. Make sure you randomize your rival's deck, pile shuffle, bridge shuffle, whatever you feel comfortable. Don't bridge shuffle your rival's cards unless they give you permission. Turns out Kevin and I share a collection, so we can shuffle like gigantic man-childs, and it doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Works out well. Awesome. Yeah. We'll have to see, what'll change those things and how it'll evolve going forward. I wonder about something like the Shigaraki 3 is like, and the enhance, I think, is you have an offensive enhance that's like, it might even be defensive too. Make your opponent make a 5 check. I should look at it instead of guess at it.
Yeah, I want to bring him up real quick. Yeah, he's very reminiscent of an old Mega Man card called Pharaoh Man that somebody on this call may have designed. And yeah, he's got his offensive ability to, his enhance. Your rival makes a check against a difficulty of 5 if they fail draw a card. That's not your attack or your turn. It's just they check against a 5.
Yeah.
More often than not, they're probably going to make the check, especially if you're not doing any sort of control hack shenanigans.
True. Yeah. 2/3 of their deck would be 5 checks, arguably, right?
Yeah. But, you could pretty much count on with that enhanced drawing a card on each turn, especially since you've got the response. That being said, you can be sneaky with Shigaraki's response and wait to use it on a block. If somebody's done like the exact math of like, okay, I can block with this plus ultra and I got to check a 5. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Not so much. And then, that once per game, your rival's checks get -1 until the start of your next turn is devastating. those aggro decks you're talking about, draw 5 cards and kill people.
Right.
-1 messes up their math something fierce.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it'd be interesting to trigger that on your first turn,
yeah, I mean, there's not an efficient way to do that on your first turn, but there are ways to do that on your first attacking turn.
Yeah,
Getting
for sure.
some fast momentum.
Right, you're just slowing them down. You're just guaranteeing they might not block everything, right? So you're going to build some momentum, and then on their turn, because it lasts all the way through their turn, right? So all their checks are -1, so they don't want to go very deep. And now you might be set up if you've got a good hand.
Well, yeah, because that effectively makes it so all of your rivals' attacks they're playing against the breaker 1 the whole turn. And then off order, you pick up some other breaker cards. And let's say you block their first attack. They're already getting -1. You hit them with a breaker 2, -3. Even playing like a 2-2 foundation's dangerous at that point.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about putting breaker in his deck. So it's like breaker and a -1 penalty and make a check. That is it feels frustrating. I know for us locally, probably Mineta is that one. Mineta 2. When somebody pulls out Mineta 2, I feel like he's just rough sometimes, just stealing all your foundations and messing with your plan,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but if you can gas them up, then you're usually pretty good. The earlier you can get them, But he hits you pretty hard, so it feels like Shigaraki would be in that similar boat of like, oh man. I am pinned down. So yeah, the one that I, like for like milling a deck or whatever, I played Recovery Girl, and then she can turn those mighty punches into throws, and your opponent will often go into deadlock. So Mighty Punch has a deadlock ability where you make your opponent discard 10 cards. So, and then you turn it into a throw and it's 7 damage. It's only like a 3 mid. So that was the one that I was kind of having fun, but the matches are so long. Like I would only play somebody out of the tournament, that we were doing on a given night. And I would say, are you okay with facing Recovery Girl? It'll be a long match. Cause I realize I'm pretty fast at playing it now, but other people are like trying to figure out what they want to do on their turn, cause it's hard to break through her sometimes.
Yeah, I know Kevin Berberg brought in at the HLC because he was worried about there being a Recovery Girl. He had somnambulism in his side deck, and he brought that in. It's like, oh, well, commit your face.
It's true.
And now I can kill you.
That is a good way to do it for sure, and whatnot. The other one I meant to mention. So the other thing I'm going to try with Spinner is a Staff Strike deck.
Yeah,
because Staff Strike it's always fun to try to make it work, and see what you can do. So I thought, of course, you can already build a foundation, so you don't have to check one to get one ahead, especially or later in the string. You wouldn't have to check one. And then even using that -3. So those are my ideas with Spinner. I don't think he's going to turn out to be super good, but these first couple weeks of a new set, it's kind of fun to just play with those characters. I never built a 13 deck. It never felt like that character could really do much.
Yeah, 13 seems like something difficult to do. I'm really interested to see, because I think we've got, provisional store championships are going to start up here soon. So we're going to get some results from those. Regional start up here in April. I'm interested to see what the mad scientists come up with.
Yeah. And like you said, do people just play it? Conservative's a weird way, because I don't know if that's really the term, but do they just play set 1 characters that have been so good and make people find those rogue decks that beat those characters, right? Or do they play those and hope they're catching people off guard, right? That's the pot that you're sitting in all the time. Is somebody going to come up with something that I can't deal with because I already know how to deal with what's already been shown, right?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. Turns out the first few weeks of a new meta are always really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. That's part of the fun. Cool. Well, do we have questions from anybody who is here? We do have a few people with us. If anybody has any questions, you can let us know. Otherwise, I know you have a lot of setup to do, right?
Oh, yes.
So I appreciate your time taken to join me, because it's always fun to talk a new set and to get a chance to talk with you. And yeah, we'll have to figure out another time off camera when we can get our groups to mesh, figure out a travel plan in between, because that'll be fun since we're not that far from each other.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, I'm gonna do some shameless self-promotion.
Absolutely. Plug away.
Alrighty, so we are shipping today. Stuff from set 4. Booster displays are in at RochesterCCG.com. We've got Clash decks, rather they're called this time. We also have our play sets. So you can get for I think it's $975. You can get 4x of everything ultra rare and lower. So you don't have to shred packs. You don't have to take a chance on your booster boxes. You just get everything. So that's only $975, and all of our singles are up for sale now as well. So head on over. I'd love for you to spend some money with me. If you're not spending it at your friendly local game store, spend it with me instead.
There you go. Yeah, so things are available at the portal. If you are local to us in Manchester, Connecticut, we're not online, so happy to have Sean and Rochester CCG represent there. And we're not selling singles, so you can definitely go to them. And we're definitely not selling play sets, so you can get your play sets at Rochester CCG, but the other products and whatnot. If you're not local or the either of us, but you're going to get to a pre-release event, I hope you get a chance to get out, whether it be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your next week or whatever, and get some set 4 characters in. If you're watching this afterward, please give the video a like. If you enjoy My Hero Talk, the channel is not specifically My Hero, it's everything games. But we'll have more My Hero next week. Brian and I are going to be live from the store. We're just going to build and jam. We'll probably just do, 2 to 4 hours live, and we'll just be there chatting and playing games. So you can come see us playing with physical cards on the table. So we'll be there. We haven't picked the day next week, but you can definitely see that. So do that. And again, if you're watching afterward, go ahead and comment down below. Just tell us what you're excited for set 4. What's a villain you're going to play? Is there an ultra rare that you've had your eyes on, you're hoping to open? Or maybe if it's even after your pre-release, just tell us what character did you play at the pre-release and how did you do. So thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. All right. Well, until next time, everybody, I am the Brandt, and I hope you step into the portal. Have a great Friday. Enjoy your pre-releases. Woo, set 4.